Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London. I'm looking at a book today about legal aid. Now, legal aid has gone through a very difficult time. We're just emerging from the current pandemic. We may have others on the way, I don't know, but at the moment we are just trying to get back to normal within the legal profession. This book is the Legal Action Group handbook, if you like. It's the Legal Aid Handbook for 2022 to 2023. They publish it on a sort of financial year basis these days. It's been edited by Vicky, Ling and Sue James, both highly experienced writers and legal practitioners in their own particular spheres. Can I say Legal Action Group is celebrating its 50th anniversary from 1972 to 2022. So a very happy birthday to LAG. They are the Access to Justice charity, and I know that from my early days as a practicing barrister and also from many colleagues that the Legal Aid Group publications are a really first-class group of publications, and they're very helpful to us in the early years. And of course you will see most of these books in the courts. They're also available in public libraries and of course citizens' advice and other areas. Now, I've given the title of this review an absolute purchase as the cost of living crisis worsens for those involved in legal proceedings. Now, I'm recording this in the spring of 2022. Things are beginning to bite quite heavily, and I certainly will see probably some changes in the type of instructions I get in the future. Legal aid is still going through difficulties both in the civil and the criminal processes. Obviously criminal justice legal aid matters, there has been an attempt to redress some of the serious difficulties, but at the moment we are still just plodding along. Let's have a look at the book anyway. It's a first-class book. There it is. You can see the title there. You can see there's a shaded area, and that actually is the appendices at the back, and then there's an index, of course, which we'll look at in a minute. That is the spine, and then on the back you can see, probably can't make much out at all, but that's actually a bit about the book, and I'll be referring to that in the review. Now, the index at the back is by paragraph numbering, so it's very easy to find what you're looking for. It's not a particularly detailed index, but it's sufficient, I think, for your needs. There's the beginning of it there, and then you've got the shaded area right at the back, which is actually legislation and various other bits and pieces. What we've got at the front of the book, of course, is the actual Legal Aid Handbook front page. There's a reference to what the Legal Aid Group does. It's the Legal Aid Group is a national independent charity which campaigns for equal access to justice for all members of society, and it provides support to the practice of lawyers and advisors. It inspires developments in that practice. It campaigns for improvements in the law and the administration of justice, and it stimulates debate on how services should be delivered. That's why I mentioned at the beginning how important it is for us as practitioners. Then we go on to the blurb there, the various other bits and pieces. There's a dedication. We only ever review books that we think are important, and dedications are very important because a lot of people are always involved in these matters. Now, the preface is always important because it sets out what the book's purpose is. At the moment, this is dated February 2022 from the two authors. Obviously, it sets out the history from the Legal Aid and Advice Act 1949, and it also sets out what they've been trying to do, and it does say they've endeavoured to give a complete account of the legal aid scheme as at the 17th of January 2022. Obviously changes are taking place as I speak. Then there are contributors, various people involved in this book. You can see a large number. I can't mention them all by name, but you can see that they are mentioned. Then you get to the contents section, and you can see it's relatively easy to follow through. And you've got to read the first part of the book to understand how to use it right at the beginning. Then you get the various chapters running all the way through. You can see that again there. Then right at the back, it's split into three parts, A, B and C. There are a total of 24 chapters. Then you have a series of appendices at the back in the shaded area, which I've shown you. And then you get into the table of cases. What a surprise. And after the table of cases, you have statutes. Then you have, after statutes, the table of statutory instruments. Then after that, you get some various other bits and pieces, which I shall get to. The EU and international legislation, always important. I mean, we may have left, Brexit may have occurred and so forth, but we've still got a huge amount of EU information and basic directives, regulations that apply. Abbreviations, very helpful abbreviations, because it's terribly easy to forget an abbreviation, so this is very useful. Then you've also, in addition to the abbreviations, you've got something called a glossary. Now the glossary again will help because it gives you definitions of what we're actually looking for. And I have to say, I do struggle sometimes. I certainly found, with the very small amount of legal aid work I now do, how complex it is to even apply, how my clerks had tremendous difficulty following everything. Part A is there, legal aid, advice and litigation. Then you've got a mini chapter, contents, and it then, read this before you start, exclamation mark, how legal aid works and so forth, the introduction for those who are new to this handbook. And you can see the structure all the way through. The paragraph numbering is at the side, you can see, so you should be able to find things quite quickly. And of course there are things like the footnotes at the bottom. And it just runs all the way through like that. This is conducting a housing case, for instance, some advice on that. And the book, the total number of pages, running to somewhere just under 700 pages in total. So what do I say about this book? Well, each year we've tried to review it. The last few years have been very difficult, but in times such as these, with the dramatic strain on our everyday cost of living, we welcome the new edition for 22 to 23. It's rightly described in the blurb as the only comprehensive guide to the legal aid scheme, and I think that's actually true. It's a simple guide. As I've said before, I have found legal aid to be incredibly complex. It's been made more and more complex by people who should know better. It should have been much simpler than it is, but it's like the tax return, the council tax, the benefits system, you name it, they have to make it as complicated as possible, when in fact it's relatively simple if they just thought about it instead of making it complex and being clevernecks. But that's the way we have to, that's what we have to face. And of course, because it's public money, it's accountable. So as I say, it's the only comprehensive guide. It remains the one book no legal aid lawyer, in our view, can afford to be without, because it covers the legal framework of the legal aid scheme in all its different processes. There's a full discussion of civil, criminal and family legal aid where it applies, and there's an analysis of the leading case law since the Legal Aid Act called LASPO, which came in a little while ago now, and is actually cited at the back of the book. The handbook, I think, is very easy to navigate, and it offers the structure and content in the following way, and this is taken from the back of the book. You've got, for instance, a practical step-by-step guide on conducting cases, getting paid, the advocacy elements, and the financial and control management systems. You've got a comprehensive guidance again on performance monitoring and quality standards, which is it seems to me to be very, very substantial emphasis in this area at the moment, perhaps too much, because advocacy is the most important area, but that has diminished in recent years. Then you've got specialist chapters in the book on family law, immigration, mental health issues, community care, which is a growing issue, housing, crime, and exceptional case funded and public law issues. Then you've got tactics and tips, also very useful from LAG, on how to use the CCMS, that's the court management system, with useful workarounds, as they call them, on the way to deal with the system. I've found it very, very difficult, I have to say, but I don't get too heavily involved in that. There's also in-depth guidance on costs, and there's a new chapter they've introduced on the various appeals mechanisms, and also there are latest policy developments. Remember that we're talking about publication a few months ago, and of course since then there have been further changes, and we are at the moment heading for fairly substantial inflationary problems in the economy, which is bound to knock on within the legal aid world itself. Now, what do we have for the new edition? Well, we have the standard crime contract for 2022. We've got the legal aid agency's COVID contingency arrangements, where they've become relevant in the text. Obviously, there's going to be considerable difficulty post-COVID with what the pandemic has caused for all of us. A discussion of the legal aid agency's new interface, as it's called, with the CCMS system, and that's basically how the system will work. Then you've got recent information on the Housing Possession Court Duty Scheme, and I have to say I'm quite confused about how that works, and I'm sure I'm not alone. I'm very confused also about what's happened with possession actions generally, and there's been complete silence since the moratorium was lifted, and I do not know, because each time I've been to court many of the courts have been almost deserted. And so I think an awful lot of stuff is going on which we don't see. We don't see it in the courts, and obviously it's online stuff which the public won't know much about, even though justice is meant to be seen to be done. But that's for another book. Also, we've got reference to guidance on the Legal Aid Agency's new training and support website, which will be of some use, I think, to people whose practice is predominantly all legally aided, and I think this book will be of great help to practice managers, solicitors, and agents, and really everybody involved in the system. And the date of publication of the book is cited as at the 28th of February 2022, and that's where they've tried to keep everything as up to date as possible. And as I say, I'm recording this in the spring of 2022. Here's the book again, just to see the front, the spine, and then the back. Just opening it up again. This is conducting a community care case, and I think these are going to become more. I've only done one or two of these, and they're becoming more to the fore, if I can put it that way, than they were before. Obviously, you've got the relevant legislation. Then you've got the little index. And then just to give you a guidance to navigation, again, you've got the paragraph numbering at the sides, and you've got footnoting at the bottom, which you can probably see there, which is of some help. And then, as I say, remembering you've got the LASBO, which is the Act from 2012. It's a long time ago when that actually came in. Then you've also got the Standard Civil Contract 2018, and various other bits and pieces in the appendices, or the annexes, whatever you want to call them. Then of course remember you've got the index at the back. All in all, a first class book. I'd like to thank Vicky and Sue very much indeed for all their work involved in this book. It's a first class book, and it's something you've got to have if you practice in legal aid. I would like again to repeat that the Legal Action Group are a very important organisation for us as practitioners, and I'm indebted to them for making my life a great deal easier as a practitioner. A very big thank you to all, and good luck with all the cases too in the future. Bye bye.